So, in that case, moving on, many people out there in England will probably be aware that the climate nutters of Insulate Britain have returned.
Who is funding these people?
Well, I don't know specifically, but we had a blissful 11 days of peace where I believe they were taking a hiatus. But as you can see here from Talk Radio on Twitter, they have returned this morning and have been blocking traffic at a major road junction at London's Liverpool Street Station. They've released some statements regarding this from spokesman Liam Norton, who said specifically, "We know the public is annoyed. They should know that this country will have to stop emitting carbon." So, blanket statement, they will have to, or else we'll just keep annoying you. And I think the situation goes a little bit further than just being annoying.
As I understand it, we're 1% of the world's carbon emissions.
Yes. I mean, one of the things that I'll go into is a lot of these organizations, because they are an offshoot of Extinction Rebellion, have, as you would imagine, what could be described as a very anti-capitalist mentality. And it makes me wonder, why are they ignoring that China makes up 27% of the entire global carbon emissions?
Because if they went and protested in Beijing, they wouldn't get just dragged off the street like this chap's doing.
Yes, there would be perhaps some scenes reminiscent of a
certain unmentionable event.
Yes, a certain unmentionable event, yes, exactly. It seems that they've restarted these protests in anticipation of the next UN Climate Change Conference, COP26, which is starting next weekend, I believe, on the 31st.
Leo did a segment about it last week.
Yeah, so they're very much starting to try and agitate again in time for that, to try and get their point across. A different spokeswoman said, Tracy Maligan, said that I'm gutted that we've had to return to the roads and irritate people. You're not, though. You're not really, though, are you? I bet they love this. I'm irritated too. I've read the Chatham House report and it's terrifying. I've not read that, but I just assume it's another climate report that's saying the world is going to end if we don't do this, and this by 2050, 2060. I do believe that this is more than just irritating people. If you go to the next one, so you can see they've been targeting Canary Wharf, which seems again to be another extension of their anti-capitalist ideals, being that it's a big business sector in the centre of London, isn't it? Yes, you can see there the footage of people just blocking buses, public transport routes, which I have seen other people tweeting that because of the blocking of the public transport routes, they've been having to take taxis and other such services, which doesn't seem to be doing something that I would imagine be helping the climate, forcing people to abandon public transport. And if we go on to the next one as well, you can see they've made a direct statement on Twitter here that's saying that we demand a meaningful statement that the government shall insulate the UK housing stock. Why should we wait until millions have lost their homes, are fighting for water, or starving to death? Now,
what do they mean by insulate the UK housing stock?
From what I've looked into, as you can imagine with a name like Insulate Britain, they are very focused on insulation, that being insulation of houses in Britain. I think they've
cut down on energy bills.
I think it's the idea that the less insulated your house is, the more energy, the more heat it's releasing unnecessarily. Therefore, the more energy you're having to use to heat your house, such as in the winter months as we're approaching right now. But the thing is, I don't know that anybody would really disagree with wanting to insulate their homes, because for the majority of people, it's going to save them money.
And most people's homes are insulated.
Yes.
Like, this isn't brand new. Britain's cold in the winter.
Yeah.
Of course you want insulation in your house.
It's not a big surprise, but they are, of course, deciding to go out and agitate and do these sorts of...
but they think that's going to stop climate change, right? Because, I mean, like, why would we wait until millions have lost their homes, are fighting for water or starving to death? Yeah. I assume they are expecting the climate catastrophe.
Yes, they are absolutely expecting.
If we don't insulate our homes.
Yeah, later on, I'll talk a bit about one of the guys who is instrumental in organising these things, as far as I'm aware. And you can also see there just the fact that they're interacting with the public like an annoying marketing campaign with the emojis. Yeah, it's very, very irritating.
It's weird that they think this is going to get people to agree with them.
Yeah, well, being an offshoot of Extinction Rebellion, what I've seen from Extinction Rebellion is that two of the founders have had high-level marketing positions in companies like Lush and I forget what the other company was.
Yeah.
So they do seem to have some experience with this kind of what they probably envision it as a mass marketing campaign to a certain extent.
But it explains why both this and Extinction Rebellion seem so goddamn corporate.
Yes.
It didn't feel like a grassroots movement of like just regular people who were just like, we've got a concern. It felt like a scheme of corporate marketing, didn't it?
Yeah, I believe the person I just mentioned, I don't remember their name, who was a marketing executive for Lush, is currently running for the Green Party as a potential MP. So we'll see how that goes. But yes, it is very corporate. There's definitely money behind this. And if you skip over, you can see the reaction that we've had of people just yanking them, yanking them off the street.
The regular people have just had enough of their S.
Yes, I mean, they've been doing this for the past month and a half at this point. So people they know what's going on, and people are just absolutely fed up, and it is great to see them doing this. Although there is the question of why aren't the police being the ones to do this? And we'll get into that in a moment. But you can see if you skip over again, there's another tactic that they love to use, which once again they seem to have borrowed from their friends over at Extinction Rebellion, which is that they like to glue themselves to different parts of the streets, both the road, lampposts, windows, all sorts. And the only reason that I can assume, and you can see more of it in the next one.
Oh, he's done it with his bare feet as well.
Yeah, he's done it with
bright.
He's done it with his bare feet. If you skip over to the next one, you can see, people are doing their hands as well. And the best one, if you skip over, is a... oh, wait. Have you got the other one, John? There's a particular one that I really enjoy. Right. If not, it's all right. Basically, there was a great image of a man who... Here we go. Who glued his face... who glued his face to the road. If you just click on that image, John, I just want to get that for everybody at home to look at properly. This is a man whose life is going very well.
What?
Evidently. It really makes you pause, doesn't it?
It's just mad. I mean, like, if this was a teenager doing it, I'd be like, okay, well, yeah, that's the sort of stupid thing a teenager would do. But, I mean, we've got to assume that this guy is some sort of dyed-in-the-wool zealot who genuinely believes.
I mean, he looks old enough.
Yeah, to be, like, as old as he is and then gluing his face to the floor. He can't be, like, a chancer or something.
No, well, the strange thing is that a lot of the people involved in the movement are retired GPs and former medical care staffers. Yeah. So for all we know, this man could be a retired GP.
Right, okay.
Which is absurd to me because I don't think anybody would recommend doing this for your health benefits, especially at his age.
Yeah.
But the reason I imagine that they do these sorts of things is, one, obviously it makes them more inconvenient to get off, because I believe the police have had to gather specialist superglue not regimes, I forget,
some
teams.
Sort of chemical antidote to superglue.
Yeah, why there's the need. I mean, these guys are obviously the need for a specialist superglue team. It obviously makes it more inconvenient, but I also imagine that if there is the potential where someone yanks them off and rips your skin, especially if it's your face, then the same way that I think everybody knows the Dave Chappelle protests at Netflix last week, there was Vito, who they tore up his sign, and then when he was left with the stick, they said he's got a weapon. Yeah, it's a way for them to be able to cry assault. If somebody does yank them off and maybe rips the palm off their hand or something, they can say, I've been assaulted. I've
got very little sympathy for that argument.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think that anybody should show sympathy, but if you skip over, The Guardian has had an article that we can see here where Insulate Britain protesters themselves have asked, why aren't we in prison?
Right, okay, so this is very interesting now, because if you're asking that, what I'm taking from this is a big virtue signal, and what you want is a badge of honor for all of your fellow protesters, but like, well, yes, I'm such a resistor, look, I've been to prison, you know.
Oh, yes. They release books about it. Extinction Rebellion specifically have books telling the stories of particular protesters, and I've read a little bit of them when I've been flicking through in Waterstones just for, the entertainment of it. And one of the stories was specifically, I got sent to prison over a weekend. And
I'm a martyr.
Yeah, and by the time that I'd been released, I'd converted all of the police officers, and they all knew my first name, and we were all having a great chat about how we're going to save the climate together. Right. Absolute wish fulfillment nonsense.
Right.
But in this article...
See, in previous eras, these people would have been hardcore Christians, wouldn't they?
Oh, absolutely.
That's what this is. the sort of religious zeal to save the world from the apocalypse.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hallam has the perfect term for them, which is sun worshippers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But in this article, it says here, a spokesman for Insulate Britain said that the group had initially expected the campaign to be extremely short-lived because all of its members would be in custody. So once again, playing into your ideas, they also revealed that police had politely emailed to ask for details in advance of where the group planned to protest, so they could deploy resources, but said Insulate Britain was under no obligation to offer advance warnings. It's fair to say that there is absolute disbelief and surprise that the campaign has lasted this long. We assumed that we would not be allowed to carry on disrupting the motorway network to the extent that we have been. We thought that people would basically be in prison.
Yeah, and everyone's wondering, why aren't you?
Yeah, why aren't you? And especially with the police saying, oh, could you email us ahead so that we can get everything prepared for you?
It's very middle-class containment protest, isn't it? Like,
yes.
You know, if this was Lord Voldemort's lot, a bunch of them would be in prison.
They'd be out with the truncheons.
Exactly. You know, they would have been physically removed long ago. But instead, because they're a bunch of middle-class, ex-doctors and whoever, they get the very soft treatment, and they're not being persecuted by the state. Interesting. Yeah. And but also given how like Boris and the Queen and everyone else going on about climate change,
yes,
I'm having trouble suspecting that this is not some sort of tactic from the establishment to say, well, look, if we just make this an issue that's in the news, then we can say we're justly taking action.
We're speaking on behalf of the people, evidently.
Yeah,
I wouldn't put it past them either. I mean, since this article, I have seen that 53 protesters have been arrested, but the difference between just being arrested and being held in jail, I imagine that they're probably just taking them in, filling out the paperwork, and then just setting them back out on the street, which is why they're probably all so confused. Like, why?
Disappointed. I was supposed to spend 2 weeks in jail so I could tell my friends on the internet that I'm a martyr.
What am I going to say at dinner next week? Yeah.
How terribly embarrassing. You were just released. Oh, that's not very interesting, is it?
Yeah, but if we move on, going back to the gluing technique, you can see here there's an example of them using it when it was Extinction Rebellion earlier on this year. Rory did this dispatch earlier this year where an Extinction Rebellion protester who was accused of blocking a Hertfordshire road last year was adjourned on Tuesday after he glued himself to the dock and began lecturing the judge. And this particular man, in particular, as you can see, he is a stallion of a human being.
Clearly sane, yeah.
Yes, is Liam Norton, who is one of the spokespersons who spoke on behalf of Insulate Britain this morning.
Oh, really?
And gave one of those initial statements regarding the protests. So he seems to have just gone straight from Extinction Rebellion to Insulate Britain to show how much the two organisations are interconnected. Rory wrote, XR protester Liam Norton, who donned a pink eye mask in the trial, was charged alongside 5 other protesters with using vehicles and makeshift structures to obstruct roads in Broxbourne in September 2020. So once again, we see repeating the techniques that they use to try and cause agitation. This sort of thing where they just glue themselves to things and start to lecture random judges, it does make it come across a little bit. It's where it comes into the martyrdom and to a certain extent LARPing, just to get themselves in the spotlight and show, look at what a good person I am. Yeah,
LARPing as martyrs. That's exactly what this comes across as.
Yes, but for all those people who do think that they are just LARPing, this is just a reminder that these things, blocking roads, does have consequences, because in doing so, you are, of course, blocking roads from emergency services and other such places. I think Hallam covered this last month, but there was just to remind everybody that a woman was left paralysed because of these protests that were going on the M25. Here we can see a mother who suffered a stroke has been left paralysed after eco-terrorists, blocked the M25, prevented her son's car from reaching the hospital. Chris, her devastated son, has said that he was forced to watch his mother slip away while sat in traffic for 6 hours. Chris said, I was caught up for about 6 hours and I was doing a mission of mercy to help my mother. When we got her to the hospital, the doctor said that if we were to have gotten to them within 90 minutes, her symptoms, her recovery would have been minimal. And because she's been left to endure a stroke after 6 hours, she had complete paralysis down her left side, which is just a tragic story that these people don't seem to have any...
they've got a mission, haven't they?
Yes, they're saving the world, don't you know?
Yeah, your mother can have her stroke and we don't care.
But this sort of behaviour is also why it's very obvious that the general public of Britain have absolutely no sympathy for these kinds of protesters. I mean, there are clips of people coming out and just shouting at them, saying, like, we agree with you. And that's obviously individuals saying that they agree with them, because I think the majority of people do hear climate change and just go like, why not? You know?
Do you want insulation on your house? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, why not? Save me a few quid each month, surely. But people shouting, we agree with you. Why are you having to do this? Why are you blocking us? Because it's people being late to work, affecting their livelihoods, potentially affecting their business if they can't get to their business to open up. I mean, if this happened here and none of us could get to the office, what are we going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you can see the absolute callousness of the people who run the organization. If you skip over to the next article, Roger Hallam, who was one of the founders of Extinction Rebellion as well, who was actually let go from Extinction Rebellion, not because he disagreed with the methods or what they were fighting for, purely because of the fact that he was bad optics, because he'd been caught in interviews saying things like the Holocaust was just another effery in human history, and saying other such things. So whether or not they agree with him or not, it didn't do well to have him saying all of this stuff out loud, you know, mask off. I don't really care that much. But I mean, he is consistently mask off. In this article, you can see that he did an interview, I don't remember exactly who with, but it says the founder of Extinction Rebellion has admitted he would block an ambulance carrying a dying patient to hospital. Roger Hallam said he would block a patient needing life-saving care in response to footage of a woman begging Insulate Britain campaigners to let her pass through their roadblock outside the Blackwell Tunnel. The distressed woman can be seen pleading with activists to move so she can follow an ambulance rushing her 81-year-old mum to hospital. Hallam confirmed he too would have blocked her way. He said he would have stayed there and confirmed he wouldn't move even if the emergency vehicle was carrying a dying patient. So he really compassionate. I know these people really care about people. That's what they're really doing all of this for. Yeah. So I mean, like once again, he's been involved with both organizations, and you can see that kind of aloof attitude towards the value of human life, because of the fact that they can put themselves above it, fighting for some higher cause, as you said, much like religious zealots can.
I mean, he's literally saying he's willing to sacrifice you or your mother for his protest. It's like, sorry, Richard, your protest, or Roger, sorry, your protest just means nothing to me, and I don't care whether Britain's insulated or not. I would care about getting my mother to the hospital.
Exactly.
Deal with it.
And and they've done some other cheeky things as well. If you go over this one's a bit, I don't know how serious they were with this one, but they were calling for a 10-mile-an-hour speed limit on the motorway so that they could disrupt roads in safety. I'm sorry, no.
Yeah, obviously not.
Yeah, so this is what I mean with retired GPs. Retired GP Diana Warner said national highways should slow traffic to 10 to 20 miles an hour when protesters are on the carriageways. The full text of her statement has been posted on Insulate Britain's website. In it, she says, if national highways are committed to safety, they will slow traffic to 20 miles an hour or 10 miles per hour when there are people on the motorway. I'm asking the National Highway to do this. The brazen demand was heard at a High Court hearing today where a judge extended an injunction to Transport for London against Insulate Britain, and National Highways, the government agency responsible for maintaining England's motorways, later said that it would not be changing the speed limit. Obviously.
Yeah, but there's a certain kind of falseness to all of this, isn't there?
Yes.
Like, they know that they're not going to get in trouble. They know that they're not going to get their ridiculous demands met. So this all just feels very artificial.
It very much does. I mean, you probably remember the footage from the Extinction Rebellion protests that were going on, 2 months ago in London? And it did just look like just an excuse for people to party in the street, to throw gigantic hippie parties where there's no consequences, no repercussions for any of their actions. And the police are kind of feeding into this by just arresting them and then just letting them go, presumably, because they're demonstrably proving you've not got any consequences for this.
Yeah.
You know, but they all expected to be arrested after all.
Yeah, but I mean, like, a demand like this is just childlike. Yeah. No one thinks that they're going to slow traffic to 10 miles an hour on a motorway.
I mean, if you run out in front of motorway traffic, you kind of got to accept what's going to happen if it does happen.
The fault is on you. There should be no pedestrians on the motorway.
Yeah. I couldn't find the clip, but I'm pretty sure there was footage. I forget if it was on the motorway or if it's on a dual carriageway or something. One sec. Where the police actively came out in front of the road, stopped the traffic to make it safe for the protesters to just run out and sit down in front of them. Very, very strange behaviour. And once again,
Yeah, it looks facilitated by the establishment.
Yes, absolutely. And once again, just another example, we've got another dispatch from earlier on this month where Insulate Britain says sorry. But they didn't really. Insulate Britain, Rory writes here, an offshoot of the environmental activist group Extinction Rebellion has apologised to ordinary people for causing disruption to roads in and around London. Speaking on Tuesday after UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson labelled members of the group as irresponsible crusties, where's the lie? A spokesman for Insulate Britain said that the movement was profoundly sorry for any disturbances caused to drivers and that its members could not imagine undertaking such acts in normal circumstances. Once again, it sounds like a half-hearted apology.
Yeah. I just don't buy any of this. I feel like I'm watching a sort of sixth form drama production. You know, like none of this feels very real. Like no one feels like they're very committed or that they truly believe. But I feel that they're trying to persuade me that they do. I
mean, it does feel like agitprop.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely so. And there's also the idea that they're apologising to ordinary people. Of course, one of the justifications that they would probably give for it is that they're trying to send a message to the establishment, man.
Yeah.
Rather than, but the fact of the matter is that, as we've seen, it affects normal people.
Yes.
And the spokesman went on to argue, however, that Insulate Britain was justified in its actions due to the reality of our situation, just as I said, predicting that the UK would face economic chaos and the breakdown of law and order in a matter of years in the face of climate change.
Yeah, but that's not reality, that's presumption.
Yeah, once again, they seem to... Roger Hallam specifically was on GB News back in May, speaking with, shall we say, he who shall not be named any longer, about climate, and it was very clear that he had taken the most extreme results from certain climate models that have been taken and just extrapolating them to the nth degree, where he was saying, like, oh, if we don't get all of this sorted in by 2040, there'll only be the 1% left of billionaires and stuff like that. So it's very much catastrophizing on a very grand scale. But in lighter news, moving on, there was something very entertaining that came out from this, which was that a mum, I think in London, decided to have a little altercation here, as we can see in the footage, where she came up and asked them to try and get out of the way. And when they refused, she decided to take actions into her own hands by attempting to run them over. You can see that she's very angry. They're very much, probably quite smugly, just saying no.
Yeah.
And she eventually tries to...
You have to understand, we have middle-class reasons for not moving. You're going to have to wait.
Exactly. Yeah. So she just decides, F this and F you. And, I mean, full respect to her.
Well, we do not endorse running over protesters on the podcast of the Lotus Eaters.
However, I can understand and empathise. Yeah. And then, if you skip over again, she released a little statement about this, saying that I never ran them over, I gave them a nudge. So dramatic, man.
Yeah, I thought you guys were all about drama. I thought the world was ending.
Exactly.
It's just a little nudge, calm down.
So while we do not condone that, it is quite entertaining to see.
Yes.
So yes, hopefully Insulate Britain will go away at some point, although given
but this obvious psyop is going to continue because it's... Again, none of it challenges anything that the government actually wants.
Yeah,
like the government's, like the people in charge are all talking about this climate nonsense,
especially in the run-up to COP26.
Yeah, exactly. It all just seems like it's part of a sort of performance that we're watching.
Yeah. So we'll just have to see how that goes, sadly, but that's about everything I had on that.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full thing at 1 p.m. every weekday at lotuseaters.com, or you can sign up to get access to all the premium content we have on the site.
Yeah, we've got loads of really good stuff. Every week we have a Contemplations and Epochs episode that goes up, and in the Contemplations we talk about just interesting things, and the Epochs episodes are probably my favourite because I love talking about history. This latest one is, we're doing a bit of a series on the 100 Years' War and why England kept winning. And we've not finished it yet, and you're going to really enjoy the end of that one. But we've also got other excellent episodes that we do, like the book club. The most recent one was Shooting an Elephant by George Orwell. This was about his time in Burma as a colonial officer. and when he was tasked with the shooting of a rampaging elephant. And it's really, really interesting what the circumstance of the thing was. But we also have lots of other content, such as premium articles, which have audio tracks on them for our silver and gold subscribers. And we do premium podcasts about things that we don't really feel that we can put on YouTube or have done a particularly large amount of research into. And so it's worth keeping them slightly more private. And we also do lots of very interesting interviews, such as this one with comedian Steve Hughes, which was really fascinating because I didn't expect him to be a philosopher. But anyway.
Yeah. Also, the last thing to mention is the live event content we have. So we occasionally, when we get around to it, doing our live events, and the videos from them are on the website as premium, of course, because people came to see and paid. So go and check that out. This is on the worst of critical race theory.
Yes.
And I do mean the worst.
It's unconscionable.
Yeah. So if you'd like access to all that premium content, go to lotuseaters.com and subscribe. Thank you and goodbye.